Hello ladies and gents, how the devil are you? AndyManCam here. Today with something a little bit different because the folks over at Videoproc have asked me to take a look at their 100% free video editing software and tell you guys what I think about it. This video is actually sponsored by Videoproc, but don't worry, I made it very clear to them that this would be a warts and all review. It's not just going to be an advert. The software is completely free, so we just have to come onto videoproc.com, find the Vlogger software, take a little scroll down, we can have a look at what we've got to look forward to, visualize speed ramping, motion effects, color grading and color correction, including 3D LUTs, audio editing, more features, more possibilities. With that out of the way, let's get on and download it. On a Mac, it's super easy to install, just drag and drop. Come into my applications, Videoproc Vlogger. Open it up, we're faced with the project window. We've got options here for video resolution. It supports up to 4K and frame rates of 25, 30, 50, 60, 100 and 120. Or you can select a custom video resolution of your choosing. So we'll just go for 4K for now. Then faced with the workspace, which if you've worked on any kind of video editing software before, looks very familiar. Media library up here in the left, preview window in the middle. I'm guessing this will be for various effects and parameters that we can change. We've got the timeline down the bottom, currently default with a video track, an overlay track and an audio track. And then along the middle, all of our various functions that we can use to edit the videos. Up here in the left, we've also got transitions, and it looks like there are absolutely shed loads of transitions. Double click them, you can have a preview of what they actually do. Then there's also titles, subtitles, and other titles. Right, we need to get some video in here. I've got a selection of video recorded with various cameras here, so let's just bosh some of these in. I've got some from an Acaso Brave 8. That's recorded at 4K 30, I think. If I click the little eye here, we get all the details about the video. There we go, yep, 30 frames per second. If I double click on that, yeah, the sound is awful. Turn that down. That video plays very nicely. Got some stuff from my current Swiss Army knife go-to camera, the Hero 8. If we drag that in, give it a double click, tiny stutter there, and then it starts to play wonderfully. And this is recorded, I think, at 2.7K 60. There we go, yep, 60 frames per second. Got some music here, drag that in, and it automatically gets sorted into the right section of the media library here. Although there is no possibility to create folders within this, so you can't create your Acaso Brave 8 folder and your Hero 8 folder. Music and sounds go in the same bar. Video all goes in the same bar. You can also add video or pictures or music by clicking on the great big plus there, so it's pretty straightforward. They've made it easy to see what's going on. And then you can lead to where your videos are, get a bit of Insta360 1RS footage. Again, the audio is mostly wind. And this is already edited in the Insta360 Studio app, so this is a reframe video. And this time that is actually an HEVC or an H.265 format video. The other two are H.264. And again, that's playing marvelously. And as well as that, I've got my audio track from my Zoom F2 audio recorder. So first of all, the music, pop that in, boshes itself into the audio track. That plays lovely. And obviously I've started recording and then have ages and ages of silence. The good thing is, thanks to the audio waveform, you can quite easily see where the sound actually begins.
This video is in fact sponsored by Videoproc Vlogger.
I didn't even plan that. It sounds a bit quiet and a bit muffly. We'll come back to that in a second. First of all, let's mess around with some video stuff. Take that GoPro footage back in again. Turn down the audio because it's going to be mostly wind and my guff. And spacebar to play, but if you've been messing around in these other things, the spacebar doesn't work anymore. You have to select in the timeline to make the spacebar work as a play and a pause. So looking across the function buttons in the middle here, we've got undo, delete, that's pretty obvious. Split, we click that. That will actually split the video. And we're working with a ripple edit based video track, which means if you drag the video away, it never leaves a space, it'll always snap back into place. And it also means if I split again here, cut this video out, it automatically closes up the gap. And when you place your playhead anywhere you want and use the shortcut Command B, it also performs the same function. And then you can also trim the video back by grabbing hold of the little edge there, dragging that along. Unfortunately, you don't get a preview there to see where you're dragging to and how far you've gone if you've reached the right point. So there was a little bit of trial and error if you want to get the specific point. And the little counter there shows you how many frames you're dragging. So you can get a fair bit of control there. It would be nice if there was a preview to see exactly where on the video you've gotten to so you can time your cuts perfectly. Yeah, so that means we can very quickly cut our video together, bish bash bosh, put another cut here, Drag that along a bit, lovely. Now sadly, the next shortfall that I've found already is the fact that there is no fast forward, fast rewind, or reverse playback option on this. So you can only play forwards with the spacebar, pause it with the spacebar, and drag with the playhead. But you can't play at double speed through your video, stopping at the right points you need, so playback is a little bit slow in that regard. Just to avoid confusion, I do only mean while previewing here, because if I select this video in the timeline, scroll down to reverse play, tick the box, video now plays backwards. I can also speed this up or slow it down, and we can have reversed video in the project. And then the next little icon here is split all, and that works when we have more than one video on the timeline. Wherever the playhead is, if you click split all, it splits all the videos together. The only problem there is the overlay tracks, which are the tracks that go over the top of the main video track, don't have the ripple function. So they don't automatically fill the gaps. You actually have to do that manually. And there also sadly is no way to connect the video files together. So you can't have the clip in the main video track and the clip in the overlay track connected to make them move together. They will always move independently, and the video track has that ripple function. The overlay track does not. If I then come in here, I've already got one cut there. Use Control B, get another one, and then change this to time stretch. What will happen now is when I drag this clip out, it's actually now playing slower than it was before. And if we come down in the little inspector thingy over here on the right, we can actually see this video is now playing at 0.3 times speed. And you can use this slider to make that fit to whatever you want, always keeping all of the clip from start to finish, just changing the speed that it plays at. And obviously, once again, keeping the ripple edit feature with the clip that's after it. So if we were to play this from there, it then immediately carries on from the right point because everything was shifted along after the edit. We've got speed, which allows us to very quickly come in, add one of these multitudinous presets. Let's go for this one, which will add a series of speed ramps based upon these Bezier curves, which you can then move around to change the speed. Very easy to adjust. Very nice. You can very quickly and easy crop the video, also to any one of these other form factors. If you want to put something on Instagram, maybe onto an iPhone, make it look cinematic widescreen. We can quickly add motion using any one of these many presets, add a bit of left and right action. You can clearly see what's going on in the left, what the video will look like on the right, and all of the effects are then editable again by coming in, changing it. Say we want to add a different preset. Let's go for a fast in out. Bosh. Come in here and change the motion, get rid of that. I want a roll. There we go. And we can also very quickly take our videos, change the color, add contrast, add a bit of saturation, make it look nice and poppy, there we go. Or coming into the color filter, we can also add a multitude of LUTs, change the LUT intensity, the highlights, shadows, whites and blacks, as well as see what you've changed by bypassing all of your effects. And then as a nice final touch, you can actually add any LUTs that you've already got. I haven't got any, so I won't add any. You can take your piece of video, say you've got a little section that's got a bit of audio that you want. You can use this icon to detach the audio. You've now got a separate audio file, which when you delete the video it came from, stays where it is. And on the subject of audio, you bring in my voiceover track, find a good section where I've been blathering something.
I would also at this early
Trim that with a Control B to cut that clip. Now if we play that, it's very quiet, it's a little bit muffled, so we need to do something about it. We can come into the audio section here by clicking the audio icon. We can up the volume 1 decibel at a time by clicking the +1 dB button until our peaks pretty much reach the top.
juncture, just like to let you know that
Already much better. And pretty cool that we've got the little meter down here in the bottom left so we can see whether we're overdriving the audio or if we've actually still got a bit of room to play. But it still sounds a little bit muffled, so against that we can come into the equalizer section. We've got shed loads of presets in here again. In here, the spacebar to play doesn't work at all. We have to hit the little button at the top there.
Full review of that free software package.
That sounds better already. I'm just gonna tailor that a little bit by chopping out a few more of the low frequencies, cut of about 3 to 4 around there. That doesn't need to be quite so high.
See what I liked, see what I didn't like.
That's much better. Really nice that you can really quickly work on your audio, make it sound a lot clearer, make it sound a lot louder. So then apply that, and that's then burned into the audio track. And as you can see, the waveform is now much bigger, showing us what we've done. and the audio itself.
Check the link in the top right to see my full review of that software package.
Yeah, steady on, I haven't finished it yet. The last thing we can do here is to add text to our video, either by just picking where you want the text to go, hit the text icon, type in whatever text we want, choose the font, choose the size, resize the text box, rotate it, move it around, change the color of the writing, even add some animations. So let's say we want that one to fade in and wipe left. Text fades in, wipes off to the left. Or alternatively, if you can't be bothered to do any of that, you can just come into titles, grab one of these, and then use the presets that are already in there. You actually get more control with these because you get a text editor option, which is not available in the ordinary text, which gives you more control over the style of the writing. Plus you can come into the animation tab and change everything to fit what it is that you want. And then the final obvious thing here is the effects, which are the top right here, come onto the effect track, which mean that you can drag the length of the effect and have it come in, start doing its thing, and then switch off when you don't want it anymore. And also, that effect in the effect track then works on all of the videos which are essentially below it, although in this representation, they're actually above it, but you get what I mean. So now that glitch effect is working on both the videos and then stops when the effect stops. Shed loads of effects in here, some of them really cool, some of them a bit naff, some of them just downright geeky. Mr. Anderson. And then before I get stuck in with some real editing, there's just a couple of other nice little features that it's got. One of those, if you click on this little icon here, you can actually change the resolution of your project. So lots of options there to create an output for the platform for which your video is intended. Also, you have the option to drag these windows around, which is nice. Say if you want a better preview of your video, you can make that bigger. You want a better view of what's in your media library, you can make that bigger. You want to see what's going on in the timeline, you can make that the focus. You can't, however, unfortunately, change the size of the tracks themselves. They are locked, but you can add as many tracks as you want, although you can only have one main video track. Theoretically, I'm told up to 999 tracks, if your computer can handle that many. Right, with all of that out of the way, I'm going to get on and use Videoproc Vlogger to edit one of my actual videos that I will actually post to my actual YouTube channel. Check the actual links in the description below or in one of the corners. Once I've finished editing that video using only this software, I'll come back, tell you how I got on, what I did and what I didn't like about using Videoproc Vlogger. So, I've edited the video from start to finish and I really have found the limits of Videoproc Vlogger. The first big problem is just when it comes to syncing up your video, stick in one main video track, one overlay track, and then my audio track. Normally, I would use a clap or a beep of the horn to help me to sync the videos together. Except in this, you only get the audio waveform on the video track itself. There's no audio waveform on the overlay track, which meant that I had to rely on the visual clap in order to sync the videos up. Sometimes that clap was off screen, so it didn't help. If I open up the actual project I was working on, I can show you a few other things I was experiencing. The main problem was, once you've got your videos all synced together, the fact that you can't group the videos together at all means they don't act as one big chunk of video clips. That causes a real problem when you make any kind of edit. For example, I want to just draw this main view out a little bit. It shifts everything else along, but all of the other clips stay exactly where they are. Because of this, about halfway through my video, I realized that everything had got horribly out of sync and it was a real headache to get it all back into place again. The next problem I had was that it's quite difficult to tell where one clip ends and the next clip starts once you make a cut, because this continuous thumbnail thing that goes on the screen here, constantly updating. So if I make a cut here with Control B, make a couple, I've now got several cuts in here, and on first inspection, you can't really see exactly where those cuts are until you click on the clip itself, and then it's properly demarcated. So that became a bit confusing because, as you can see, if I zoom out here, I've got shed loads of cuts, which I think also leads me to the next problem I had, which is that with this much going on, it's made the performance of the software a bit sluggish. So it's zooming in, it's struggling, sometimes it's stuttering backwards, scrolling through is quite slow. But worst of all, I've reached a point where I can't add any more videos onto the timeline. Seems like I've reached a limit there. Plus, if I do a Control X to cut this video clip and try and paste it in again, nothing happens. Control and paste just doesn't work. I also discovered that the behavior is very different between the main video track and the overlay tracks. What I mean by that is, say I've got the main video track comes to an end, I want the overlay track to be the last bit that shows, so I want to put a fade out transition onto the end of that. But you can't put fade outs and transitions onto the overlay track, only onto the main track. Small things, but worth knowing about. But don't go anywhere just yet, that's not the end of this review. After speaking to Videoproc, they reminded me that this software isn't really intended for people who are used to using professional level software. It's really intended for people who've got an action cam and just want to have an easy, quick way to smash the videos together and get a good looking product at the end. So with that in mind, I went back out on the bike with just one action cam, recorded a bunch of footage, which I'm going to try and create something out of now and get a better idea of how this software is really intended to be used. And obviously I'll show you that video at the end of the review. So we'll open a new project. Here's everything I've got. Drag that in. Yep, looks good. I'm just going to start dragging these in roughly in the order that I think they happened. So there we go, that's all my footage on the timeline, and just in case you were wondering, do a Control-C, Control-V, copy and paste works just fine. Because I've only got one track in my timeline, I can make my preview window bigger. Let's come back to the beginning. Control-B to trim that, get rid of the next one. Trim there, delete that. That's good, trim there. And as you can see, every time I trim something out, everything's sliding down using that ripple effect. And quite a nice touch as well is that you can drag your playhead to a point, and then when you drag this little handle thing to trim the clip, it'll actually snap to where the playhead is. So you can find your position that you want to trim to and then drag to that and get your edits right. Okay, that audio is going to be awful, so what I'm going to do is detach that and then delete it. Another thing you can do is you can actually select your clip, press M, and it'll put a marker in, and then you can snap the playhead to that marker and use that with a Control-B or the split icon and achieve the same thing. So I'm going to quickly run through all of these clips, put some markers in where the good bits are. I'll show you the speeded up version and we'll carry on afterwards. Right, so now I've gone through all of the clips, put markers on the bits that I thought looked cool. I can either go through, place my playhead, give it a split, delete that clip. Another option is I can drag the playhead again to the marker and then drag the end of the clip to that. That trims it off. Control-B for a split, and so on. You get the idea. So there we've got all of my clips trimmed down to about 4-5 minutes of footage. Now I want to do a bit of reordering because inside a trick, I had just the one camera with me. All I did was rode the same stretch of road 3 times with the camera in a different position. Now I'm going to cut it together to make it look like it was all one seamless ride. Looks like I'm going to have to get a bit of a wriggle on. Okay, so there's me riding away. I'm going to get a bit of rear view action in there. And what I can do here is either go right click, move forwards, and it switches those 2 clips over, move forward, switches those 2 clips over. But because I've got a bit further to go, I'm just going to drag it and it will shift everything over, leave space for that clip. So now I've got front view riding away, rear view riding away. In fact, why don't we stick the side view in between the 2 of those? Ditch that one, use this one instead. This one is that same corner. Maybe put that between those. Probably a bit early on the cut there. There we go, that's better. Come around the final bend, probably cut that a bit tighter. Right, so that's all of my clips in the right order. Still a bit long and a bit boring because there's not really any sound because all I had was wind noise. So why don't I stick some music in there? Here's one I prepared earlier. Drag that in, automatically pops into the music thing. Drag that into the music track. Nice quiet bit for the beginning, trim that down. Right, now I want to see better what's going on here, so we'll shift that back up so I've got a bit more of a view of what I'm working with. That clip's a bit long, that bit's a bit boring too, so let's start on something a bit more exciting. So now I want to trim this music so that comes in when the riding starts. And while I'm on the subject of music, if I come into the audio editor while I've got the music clip selected, there's a thingy up here called Analyser where I can actually have this analyze the music, and this then puts in, for the most part, at the beginning it doesn't really know what it's doing, but here, if I then select add marker, it puts a marker on every single one of those points that it thinks is a beat of the music. And that then means those markers are now in here and I can actually use them. Trim that to that beat. can have the looking at the cows go with the guitar slide. I'll split that there because I want to have a bit of sneaky speed rampage. I think about there to start with. Go for 8. Same at the end. Smooth that out. But the music doesn't quite fit, so maybe come to that marker point, split that. And that's interesting, it's deleted the markers now, so I'm going to be on manual from now on. So that's the music trimmed down. I have to get a bit of a wiggle on. Trim that, get a speed ramp in here. There we go, just use the preset for that, see how that looks. Use those gear changes. Just trim that to there, and then try a bit of slow-mo, why not? There we go, we have some half speed there, thank you very much. So strangely now, although that's a 50 FPS video, dropped down to half speed, it's dropping the in-between frames. Whereas in the editor, it's not. Very strange. Turn in time with the slide. There we go, perfectly timed to the end of the music. It's a bit of talking, so music to get quieter at that point. Split that there, split that there, reduce the volume. And that audio is a bit quiet, so I'm just going to detach that, bring that into the audio editor. Crank up the volume a bit, stick a fade in at the beginning because we don't need that much noise. That'll do. And then I think we really ought to try a few transitions, eh? Zoom blur there. I think we can have it a bit quicker than that. Oh no, don't want that. Try a morph on that one. And let's try a crosswarp on there just to see what it looks like then. A bit more talky, so split that. Also looks like the audio there is a bit rubbish. It's a lot of wind. So that means I can have a bit of a cheat, show you another function here. If I plug a lapel microphone into the laptop, select this little record icon here, set on external microphone. You can also use your built-in laptop microphone if you wanted to, and then quickly record. So much for the sun is shining. Looks like I'm gonna have to get a bit of a wriggle on. And then I can plonk that down here. So much for the sun is shining. Looks like I'm gonna have to get a bit of a wriggle on. Actually worked. Don't believe anything you see in TV, kids. We can make that a bit louder. So much for the sun is shining. Almost didn't start. Don't worry. Last section of audio, I think that's good enough to keep. Ramp up the volume a little bit. Fade in, fade out at the end. Keep that. And I think we're done. So there we go. That is a quick little video, boshed together with one camera. Took me maybe half an hour of riding backwards and forwards, about an hour messing with the computer here. And considering it's the first time I've done anything like this on this software, that's not bad at all. So now I just need to export that. Hit the export button, MP4. Stick with the H.264, go for high quality, thanks very much. I'll put it as high as it goes. 25 FPS, average kilobits per second of 50,000. Slightly better quality audio, and then that's quite a nice touch actually that there's the turn off computer when the task is finished option. If you've got a slower computer and you tend to leave your renders running overnight, that means the computer's going to switch off when it's finished rather than sucking the power out of you all the way through the night once it's finished rendering. Give that a render. Yeah, so while it's doing that, I think I'll just sum up and say that despite my earlier frustrating experience, when I've come back at it again with a single camera, using it like a lot of you guys out there want, which is just to have a way to cut your footage up, to get rid of the tat, keep the good stuff, bosh some music on top, couple of transitions, maybe a title or two, even a tiny bit of audio monkeying, then Videoproc Vlogger is probably a really good choice for you. And considering it costs absolutely nothing and is completely unrestricted, up to 4K videos, no watermark, you've really got nothing to lose by giving it a try. It seems to have everything that you could possibly need to bosh together some videos from your action cam footage. Everything's nicely laid out. It's quick and easy to do speed ramps. It's quick and easy to add motion. The ripple edit keeps things nice and fast. You don't have to worry about removing empty spaces. Everything keeps chopped together. Being able to record a voiceover is good with very little equipment needed. The fact that it seems to support pretty much every video format available is also a nice touch, so you can stick in videos from your DSLR, your drone, your action cam, your phone, be that Android or Apple, and Videoproc Vlogger is going to be able to deal with it. And it's also worth mentioning that all the time that I was using the software, even when I was rendering 4K footage, in the activity monitor here on the Mac, it was showing me that the software was only ever using 6 GB of RAM, so you don't need a massive RAM machine in order to run this software. In fact, my MacBook Air here only has 8 GB of RAM itself. But of course, like anything, there are negatives. Things I've already mentioned, like not being able to group clips together, the visibility issue with the thumbnails on the timeline here, the lack of a fast forward or a rewind functionality, not being able to see the audio waveform of the overlay tracks, and not really being able to work with large multicam projects or just massive long projects. But to be honest, for most of you guys out there that are going to be thinking about using Videoproc Vlogger, those things aren't really going to be a problem for you. And to be honest, with all the other features that it has and the ability to work on a low-powered machine, which means once you've already bought your expensive action camera, you don't need to go out there and buy a massive machine just to do something with the footage, means it's still a really viable option. And there we go, the video is rendered, and as far as I'm concerned, that's everything covered. I'm happy with what I've seen, and I would recommend you go and give this a look if it sounds like something that could work for you. Thanks very much to Videoproc Vlogger for sponsoring this video, and thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Either way, give me a comment below, tell me what you did and didn't like about the video. Otherwise, sit back and enjoy the toils of the last hour's labour and see just what you can do in a few short minutes with Videoproc Vlogger. What are we doing here? The sun's shining. Let's get on it. So much for the sun is shining. Looks like I'm gonna have to get a bit of a wriggle on. And that's how easy it is to smash a video together fast and for free with Videoproc Vlogger. Check the links in the description to try it out for yourself. Give it a go. It'll cost you nothing, might be just what you're after.